Virtual RC Racing, the Inside Story. Episode 11, VRC version 3.5 release and Kyosho version. My name is Peter Barefoots. Once we had started to release VRC v3, the word quickly spread that there was finally a serious radio control car sim on the market. No serious game studio had probably ever thought of the idea that RC cars are actually very suitable for a racing sim. They probably didn't even know anything about RC anyway. And if they knew anything about RC, they would have understood very quickly that it was a typical insider hobby sport, a very niche market, nothing like a serious consumer market. I'm afraid they were dead right. Why did I think RC racing was so well suited for a sim? It's quite simple to understand. Like I explained in an earlier episode, the main feedback an RC racer gets to control his RC car is purely visual, what you see, and to a lesser extent, what you hear. An RC racer has learned to respond solely to these two inputs. RC stands for radio control, but also for remote control. There is simply no physical feedback like you would have in a real car racing sim. Force feedback, steering and pedals, and even motion platforms to simulate driving forces like acceleration, braking, and cornering. With VRC, we have created a sim that gives you exactly the same feedback as in real life, but instead of watching your car on the real-world track, you're watching it on a monitor. And providing the car drives, behaves and sounds like a real RC car, it should be a very realistic experience, right? Especially as you use the same controller or transmitter you also use to control your real radio-controlled racing car. As so often in this inside story, I must put things in the right timeline perspective to understand what was possible back then. In the early years of the new millennium, computer technology was developing at an extremely fast pace. Ever faster CPUs, better graphics cards, DirectX advancements, Internet. But compared to today's standard, it was very primitive to say the least. Back then, screen resolution 1024 by 768 pixels, yes 4 by 3, was very much the standard, and 21-inch was about the biggest screen you could get. With the best CPU and the best graphics card, you could perhaps get 40 to 60 frames per second. In 2007, the monitor and TV market changed dramatically from 4 by 3 aspect ratio to 16 by 9, which became the new standard for widescreen monitors. But also the pixel count started to increase exponentially, as did the frame rate, or FPS. Today we have ultra-wide 34-inch 3440 by 1440 pixel monitors, and even much bigger size and higher resolutions, with refresh rates of 200 plus Hertz, and easily getting well over 400 frames per second in highest graphics settings. VRC version 3 was developed for 4 by 3 aspect ratio monitors. We simply had no idea what was to come. Enough about reminiscing about past hardware technology, but it is all important to put our development path in the right historical perspective. Now on to the important Kyosho connection. When VRC entered the market in 2004, it had raised the interest of several major RC industry players, among them Kyosho, Associated, Tamiya, and Thunder Tiger. With Serpent, we were present on many international hobby shows, like the Nuremberg Toy Fair, the RCX in Chicago, and Tokyo Hobby Show. I had developed very good relations with Aki Suzuki, president of the Kyosho Corporation. On our Serpent booth, we had a VRC demo corner, which was ideal to demonstrate what VRC was all about, and also to show how much interest there was from RC racers. It was obvious that a consumer-oriented company like Kyosho was very interested in VRC, as it showed a serious potential to make an impact on the RC market, and could be a great promotion for the RC racing hobby. Later that year, Aki and I met again during the 2004 IFMAR Worlds 110 Nitro in Sao Paulo, Brazil, where we continued our discussions about Kyosho becoming an important VRC partner in Japan and in other major countries. I considered the Japanese market as a potentially very important market because computer gaming was already huge in Japan, with Sony's PlayStation and Nintendo being absolute market leaders. Of course, Aki would have liked to see VRC developed for PlayStation, but that was simply far beyond our possibilities. But there were a few other major requirements of interest to Kyosho. For VRC to be successful in Japan, it had to come with a simple controller that would plug straight into a PC's USB port. And it would have to be packed attractively, and most importantly it had to support Japanese language, and for Kyosho's export markets also German, French, Italian, and Spanish. Well, I am reasonable good at English, but Japanese? That's where I left off in episode 10, remember? I discussed the multi-language option with Lothar, and as we had already a multi-language structure in place for VRC v3, it all seemed doable, only to find out then that Japanese characters were not supported. It took a little while for Lothar to get that done, so we were able to fulfill one of Aki's major requirements, a Japanese version of VRC. With the help of the international membership that we had already built up after the release of v3, we were able to fill the language database rapidly with the European languages. For Japanese, it was more complicated, therefore I decided to go to Japan and visit Kyosho at their headquarters in Atsugi. I think it was early 2004. I stayed there for a week and got the job done. By the way, a very interesting experience to work together with Japanese Kyosho staff. I remember me sitting in one of their offices, going through the whole translation list, and implementing and checking things real time in the game, with a great view from the 8th floor, watching the small Kyosho 110 scale track behind the Kyosho building. During that visit, I also took the opportunity to go to several Japanese tracks to collect reference material for the game. Of course, Kyosho's own rather small track, mainly for 110 scale, just outside the Kyosho office building, but also K-Tune, Boss Speed, Hokusei, and SPL 1 and 2, which were all in the Tokyo area. One of the Kyosho staff members drove me around, but for the K-Tune track we had to take several local trains to get there. A very interesting trip. I had already visited Tamiya's home track in Kakegawa during a meeting with Tamiya for Serpent Business, and the Osaka Central Raceway during a visit to our Japanese Serpent distributor, Central RC. So we had a great collection of 9 Japanese tracks, just what Mr. Aki-san wanted to see in the Kyosho VRC version. Now back to the Kyosho controller and packaging. The last thing I had to arrange was finding a suitable transmitter-like controller, which would plug directly into the USB port of a PC or laptop. Kyosho's own transmitters were not really suitable to be converted to a simple VRC controller, but I had already spotted 2 very suitable controllers from Thunder Tiger, which were also used by Associated for their ready-to-run products. The design of Thunder Tiger's stick and pistol grip transmitters were ideal to be converted from real transmitters to simple controllers with a USB cable to hook them up to a PC. Take all the electronics out and replace the original potentiometers with versions suitable for VRC. Job done. I contacted Ah-Ling Lai, president of Thunder Tiger in Taiwan, with whom I also had a Serpent business relationship. Some of you may remember that the Impact Street spec came with a Thunder Tiger .12 pull-start engine. I think that was somewhere late 80s. We quickly came to a deal to go ahead with this project. To make these VRC controllers stand out, I asked Thunder Tiger if it was possible to give them special color schemes, which Tony, our 3D graphics artist, had come up with when he designed the packaging. Red for the Kyosho VRC line and yellow for ours. No problem. Thunder Tiger really did a fantastic job on these controllers for us, including the packaging. Looking back at this now, it is quite remarkable how everything had come together. We had Kyosho to sell VRC under the Kyosho brand, 9 Japanese tracks, Japanese language support, a very nice controller in Kyosho red-black color scheme, and fantastic packaging. But besides the Kyosho controllers, we also had our own yellow-black version made at the same time. What I had in mind with our own VRC controllers is next. Make sure to subscribe to the Inside Story playlist on YouTube. Thank you for watching.